The Demon's Angel, Chapter 1, The Angel's End. Work. Oh, I dreaded the thing. A word to the wise. There's a reason smart parents tell their kids to do what they love and what they have a passion for. It's because no matter what you do for a living, you're going to come home feeling exhausted and mentally fried. No matter what, it's going to suck. But doing something you love just makes it suck less. Man, I was lucky. I was a tattoo artist who played one-man shows in my spare time. It's not the most popular choice if you want a mansion or something, but hey, it pays the bills and I like doing it. That and the fact that it offsets my few guilty pleasures. These included liking flowers and sparkly rainbows, sappy romance comedies, and My Little Pony. Yep, I'm a closet brony. But needless to say, this was a secret so deep in the closet that it was better hidden than my Christmas presents. Come to think of it, I haven't found them. Anyway, teenagers who have just hit 18 and adults who are having a midlife crisis tend not to want the business of a guy who watches a children's show, no matter how many tattoos he has. But thankfully, after a few years, I'd saved enough for my two career choices to open up my own tattoo parlor in the outskirts of Fremont in California. It was a great town to be so long as you didn't have kids, and there was always something to do. And this also brought about all kinds of like-minded people for me. Before I knew it, I had great trustworthy friends and a fully staffed tattoo shop. But even with all that being the case, I was still burned out by the end of the day. I loved what I did, both of what I did, but I was still well ready for bed at the end of the day. Mike, a good friend of mine and the manager of my shop, turned to me and asked if I was going out. I nodded and waved to him. Yeah, I'm out for now. I'll just be hanging out by the bird if you guys need me, but please don't need me. He chuckled and slapped my hand in a high five as I headed out the shop, heading towards a rocky beach near my house. The day was nice, so I just walked the whole way there, deciding to leave my car at home. I got to the beach in only a few minutes and took a deep breath of the salty sea air that I love so much. I chuckled as I walked up to the rocky beach and sat by myself in the cool surf. My friends and I were some of the only people who actually came to this beach that we'd affectionately named it the Bird, because of a big rock that looks like, you guessed it, a bird. The animal, not the sign. We didn't come here because of the beach itself. Because of the rocks and strong current, it's too dangerous to go in unless you're ready to swim hard and fast, lest you get pulled out to sea. No, we came here because of the quiet. All the howlies. It's white and Hawaiian. I know, it's fucked up, but it's pretty funny. They always wanted to go in the water, so they all kept to the resort beaches and ones with the least amount of danger. Safe for kids, no doubt. This also made them crowded as hell. I liked this particular beach because it was nearly always empty, well, save for myself and a few other people. When I was here, I could just relax in the warm sea breeze and let my thoughts wander to a great many things. It was a place of peace and of revelations. I mean, some of my greatest ideas came to me on this beach. I had my first kiss on this beach, and she had her funeral here. As my mind started to race to darker thoughts, I pushed them away and just relaxed in the late afternoon. To the west, there was a drizzle over sea, and this caused a rainbow to appear over the city that I called home. And as unmanly as it was, I always loved the rainbow. It was a thing of beauty that wasn't created by man, and it's been around since ancient times. I mean, it is in itself an artifact of old times. But rainbows held more meaning to me than that. From my hidden pleasure of My Little Pony, Rainbow Dash was always my favorite. And as a matter of fact, I'd gotten her tattooed on my right arm. Though you'd have to be looking to see her. It's kinda stupid for a tattoo, I know, but it's my body. Sometimes when I fall asleep on the beach, I'd have dreams that she'd come and see me and we'd just play and laugh. But laughter, that wasn't something I did much anymore. Ever since she died, my wife, I lost my will to laugh. I mean, sure, I chuckled and even giggled from time to time, but I no longer was able to have that loud, body shaking laughter that would leave you winded and hurting, but also happy beyond relief. That was also the part of the reason I watched MOP. Well, I never had that kind of laugh. It's one of the only things that's gotten me close. While laying on that beach thinking about my past and my future, I was watching as the sun slowly slid towards the horizon and the moon came out from behind me. Deciding that it was probably about that time to head home, I grabbed my beach shoes and walked back up to town. Mother Nature apparently had a sense of humor that night as the city started to rumble and shake with a small earthquake. I chuckled again. This quake wasn't big enough to do any real damage, but I knew for a fact all the tourists were flipping out in their rooms. It serves them right. As I came to my house, I noticed that my mailbox had fallen over. Again. I picked it up and stuck it in the ground, promising myself that I'd replace it for the millionth time. Procrastination is all good so long as it's a mailbox, or that meeting I was supposed to have with my weird uncle. As I mused about how strange things had become in the past year, I opened up the door to my little 2-bedroom beach house and stepped in. I was happy that the only thing that had broken was an empty bottle of tequila on the counter, so I quickly swept up the broken glass and threw it away before heading upstairs. I showered quickly and shaved before leaning over to a picture on the mirror and kissing it. The picture contained the last photo that I had of us. I remember the entire day so vividly, as it was my birthday and we were at a place called the Mystery Spot. I'd seen the place so many times as a kid growing up and it was kind of boring, but Kayla loved it. There was a reason that this was the last picture we took, and that reason was called lymphoma. Kay was always obsessed with tanning, and one day she was diagnosed with malignant melanoma after we went to the doctor when we found a weird purple bump on her arm. After that, she wasn't much for pictures anymore, and neither was I. She passed on not 6 months after her diagnosis, and we'd only been married a year. I remembered lashing out at Mike one time when he remarked that at least we hadn't been married that long. He was never one for thinking before he spoke, but I wasn't able to let that one slide. Not so soon anyway. I forgave him later on, but it still hurts to this day. One of the tattoos I had was a pair of devil wings that I'd gotten on my back. Made it look like they were breaking through the flesh. I was young, well, younger, and stupid. Don't ask. Anyhow, Kay used to remark that I was a little demon, and so one day she got a pair of gold angel wings on her back to match. Around my friends, we were known as heaven and hell, and as messed up as it is, I took it as a title of endearment. Kay was my angel, and while I didn't want her to leave me, I guess heaven was calling her home. It wasn't as bad as it always was, but I would always miss her. I was brought out of my reverie by the feeling of all my hair standing on end, as if there was static in the air, and this was followed by a loud popping sound like electricity arching between 2 points. I rushed around my house to find the source of the sound, and only to find it was my bedroom. I noticed that my hair had fallen flat again and there was no more noise, so I cautiously opened the door and turned on the light. What I saw next had me really confused. Laying in my bed was a young girl, probably my age or a little younger. She had softly tanned skin and what I assumed was rainbow-dyed hair. And the next thing that I noticed was she was completely naked. And though this was a stranger in my house, I covered my eyes and looked away, grabbing the comforter and throwing it over her. And she must have been a light sleeper because this woke her up. And instead of having a panicked or worried expression, she blearily sat up and rubbed her eyes before yawning rather cutely. Her expression changed to innocent confusion as she looked up at me. Who are you? She asked softly, her eyes widening a bit. I frowned and threw the comforter back over her, which had fallen off when she sat up. Please keep yourself covered, girl. And as for who I am, I'm Kwamalu. This is my house, so who are you? She grabbed a blanket and hugged it against her, closing her eyes and apparently thinking. She was like that for a few silent moments before she opened her eyes and had an even more confused expression. I I don't know. What do you mean you don't know? You can't remember your own name? I asked, getting a little nervous. If she was a crazy naked chick, that's one thing. I didn't know if I was ready to deal with an amnesiac, though. She shook her head and sighed a little sadly. No, I got nothing. I can't remember anything about anything at all. I decided to stop the incessant questioning, as odds were I was probably going to make her cry or something. I turned around and rummaged through my closet, finding a small pair of shorts and an old shirt of mine. I tossed the clothes at her and started to walk out. Put those on, miss whoever you are. Then come meet me in the living room and we'll figure this out. I took a deep breath and started to walk downstairs, but she then called out to me before I could leave. Kawa Melu? She said softly. I face palmed and shook my head. Ko-ah-ma-lu. You look, just call me Koa. Anyways, what do you need? I could hear her stand up and abruptly fall over. Oh, great. She's drunk too. I averted my eyes from oogling her and instead focused on her hair as I walked over. I helped her up and sat her back on the bed. Okay, what is it, Miss Rainbow? She seemed to get a shock or something as she twisted what I called her. What did you just call me? I gestured to the mirror across the room. Rainbow, like your hair. Anyway, what do you need? I asked, getting a little annoyed. She shook her head to clear her thoughts, I guess, and looked up at me. For the first time, I saw her eye color. She had an unnaturally vivid shade of violet, which caught me off guard. Luckily, before I could say or do anything stupid, she replied, I don't know how to put these on. Can you help me? Please? She asked in an innocently sweet voice. She must have had one hell of a case of amnesia if she can't even remember how to put on clothes. That, or is the worst come on I've ever had used on me. All the same, I figured it couldn't hurt. I mean, if it came down to it, I'd just tell her to get out. But for now, I suppose I'd humor her. With this in mind, I motioned for her to turn around, which she did, and I sat behind her. I grabbed a shirt and prepared to pull it over her head when I noticed something on her back. It was a pair of beautiful cyan feathered wings. This brought a tear to my eyes. I remembered my K. But what happened next completely dumbfounded me. As I leaned to the side to grab the shirt that I dropped in shock, I noticed another marking on her left hip. It was Rainbow Dash's cutie mark. At this point, I was floored. My mind started coming up with the weirdest thing I've ever thought, that this naked chick was Rainbow Dash. The logical part of my mind was still there, though, telling me that this wasn't possible. And yet, things made an odd amount of sense. Unnatural colored eyes, rainbow hair, and tattoo of wings, and even the cutie mark. Rainbow Dash, I mumbled to myself. The girl turned her head and stared at me with her mouth wide open. I know that name. She closed her eyes and almost seemed to be in pain as her face strained in thought. After a minute, her eyes shot open with the same shocked expression. That's my name, she squeaked out. I decided to push a little further. You remember anything else? She turned around and stared at me before nodding. I remember everything else. I know who I am. I'm Rainbow Dash, fastest Pegasus in all of Equestria, she stated, puffing out her chest with pride. She then slumped down, and her face took on a somber expression. Well, at least I was. I started to play into the whole thing until my brain got control again. This is impossible. Rainbow Dash is a cartoon. I might not be a physicist, but I know that this can't be possible. Still, if this girl is really as damaged as she seems to be, she's going to need some help. I mean, I hated to admit it, but I had a weakness for those in need, and I couldn't just turn her away. Crazy or not, she needed help, so at least for the time being, I would humor her. I then grabbed her firmly by the shoulders and turned her back around so that I wouldn't be tempted to stare at her chest. I motioned with my hand, arms up. She complied, and I pulled the shirt down over her body, taking care to be as gentle as possible. Now that she was clothed enough so that I couldn't see anything, I pulled her up with me. Okay then, now hold on to my shoulders. She did as I asked, and I held the shirts down open low, looking away to give her privacy. Okay, one leg in each hole. She wobbled a bit when she stood on one leg, but did as I asked while holding on to me. She fell against me as she put the other leg in and blushed nervously. Sorry. I shrugged. It's okay. I'm just glad that you have clothes on now. She raised an eyebrow. Speaking of clothes, why do I have to wear them? See? She's Rainbow Dash. Shut up, brain, I mumbled to myself. I don't know how it is with ponies, but humans are quite a bit more modest. And as a matter of fact, if you walk out without clothes on, you'll probably get arrested. Why? She asked innocently. Scratched the back of my head in nervousness. Well, because the only person who should see you without clothes is someone you plan on being intimate with. Her cheeks lit up a bright red and she turned away. Oh, so that's why you were all... I nodded. Yeah, but not to say that you're not attractive or anything. I mean, you're very attractive. No, what I mean is... Oh, where the fuck was I going with that? No, I'm just going to shut up now. She giggled and grinned at me. Well, thanks, Koa. I then sat us both down on the bed and looked her right in the eyes. Okay then, do you have any idea how you got here? You remember that? She closed her eyes and strained in thought for a few minutes. Suddenly her eyes shot open in shock and her mouth dropped open. I died.